What's the latest on the coaching searches at Auburn, LSU, Florida, and Arkansas? And could we see some interim coaches getting the full-time jobs? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And now on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, broadcasting daily across Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi, and everywhere on YouTube. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Joining us, as he has a couple times throughout this season, always fun when we can catch up with our buddy Jake Crain, of course, host of Crain and Company. You can find him all over all the platforms. Love watching all his reaction videos. Jake, you guys have had so many reaction videos the last couple weeks with big games, coaching firings. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah, well, it seems like every single, Sunday for the past, 3 or 4 weeks, that there's been another, pin to drop. Some shocking, not as shocking as others. I appreciate you having me. I always tell Cone and Blaine, my co-hosts, when you go on Locked On, you better be locked in because you guys do a really, really good job. But I will say, I'll never be upset with a lot of content and breaking news in our area. Obviously, it helps us. But, it's so intriguing to follow what I think has been the biggest year of parity across the board that we've seen in college football along the same timeline as some really big jobs opening. I mean, we went from, James Franklin being fired, Billy Napier being fired, Brian Kelly being fired, now Hugh Freeze being fired. You're just wondering on this upcoming Bloody Sunday, who gets the axe next?
Let's start with Hugh. That's the freshest, just happened on Sunday. It was almost like understood. And then when they go and score 3 points at home, at Auburn and lose to Kentucky, it had to be done. But I mean, it's crazy, Jake, because I said it the day Brian Kelly was hired. I said, man, it's a home run for LSU. He's going to win a national championship there. And when Hugh Freeze was hired at Auburn, I said, man, this is a great hire. I mean, he's going to have great offenses and all this. Why did it not work with Hugh?
Well, to the point at the end there about coaching hires, I've always said since I've gotten into sports media and got out of coaching is that I think the hardest thing to project is how a coaching hire is going to work out because there are so many variables that go into that working successfully that it's hard to sit there and project. I think it's a lot easier to turn on tape of a high school player, a lot easier to turn on tape of a guy in the transfer portal and be able to evaluate a player a lot better than it is to evaluate a coach. I mean, look at the examples, whether it's new guys getting a shot at their first big gig that just got fired like Billy Napier of Florida, or guys that are proven commodities like Brian Kelly at LSU. It's such a difficult job. That's why you get paid the money you get paid to do. But to project it is even harder. But on the Hugh Freeze point, it had to happen. We were hearing rumblings, and I have pretty good connections in the, upper echelons of what goes on at Auburn. After the Missouri game, I think he was cooked. It was just a matter of time and how it would go down financially and when it would go down. But then you get, you beat Arkansas on the road. Your hand gets forced with that absolutely disgusting performance. To me, if we really wanted to get answers out of every terrorist that we have at a black site, we would just show them clips of Auburn when they have to go score at the end of a game. You'd know every terror cell throughout the world in 30 minutes if you did that. And look, as somebody that like you, because deep down, I try and give every guy a chance and say, look, this is the way it could work. This is the way it couldn't work. You felt like a lot of the momentum with Hugh Freeze, who got in trouble at Ole Miss, went to Liberty, bounced back, had a lot of momentum, would really be a dog that would want to go hunt at a place like Auburn. And the health issues nobody could have foreseen. But at the end of the day, you can't be worst at what you're supposed to be best at. And what really sunk him was two things. One, quarterback evaluation. And he was soft. Like, that's just the truth, Gordy. Like, he was soft. I mean, to be honest with you, like, at a place like Auburn, you need somebody that has a lot of dog in him to go there because it's a job where you have to be that type of person to be able to win consistently. And Hugh Freeze was, again, and I've got nothing against it. I just don't know if when you're warming up to go practice, we need to be listening to Switchfoot.
And we had heard rumblings, right? What was it over the summer where it came out like, can you go soft on the quarterback today, Jackson Arnold?
Dude, it's crazy.
Like, come on,
it's
man.
like, dude, this isn't a Miss Rachel episode. Like, we're about to have grown men try and run through each other's face. Can somebody get upset about just something?
Well, let's talk about moving forward. I mean, DJ Durkin, look, the defense has been awesome. I mean, he's been a good DC everywhere he's been across the SEC, and that's the strength of the team right now. So what are your thoughts on, and people have thrown it out there, if he does well here, maybe you just take the interim tag off and you hire him. What's the likelihood of that?
It's a fascinating, this is going to be so interesting to watch how this plays out at Auburn and really everywhere across the board, because one domino affects the other. I think with DJ Durkin, there's a couple things. Number one, just like the backup, the second most popular guy on campus outside of the backup quarterback is the interim head coach. That's the first thing. Right. Everybody's like, because typically the interim is a guy that has had success there and that people know, and Auburn's defense has been the shining light of the team, really the only shining light, if we're being honest. But a couple things when you step back from it, you got to look at it from a 30,000 foot view. One, the Maryland record for DJ Durkin is not going away. That is something that's not going to disappear. You have to be honest about that. But the first time you try anything that's really tough, you're probably not great at it. The first time somebody gave me a Rubik's Cube, I had no chance. Now, in all actuality, if they gave me a Rubik's Cube right now, I'd still have no chance, but I'd have a little bit of a better chance than I did the first time. So we've seen coaches struggle in their first tenure, sit on the sidelines, come back, and have success, right? We've seen that before. Typically, that happens more than somebody starting out well. I think for DJ to be named the head coach, he has to win out. I think he has to win out. I think he has to beat Vanderbilt, which, Gordy, I'm going to tell you right now, I think Auburn beats Vandy this weekend. He has to beat Mercer, obviously. I think he has to beat Alabama, because the positives are, all right, if you take the interim tag off, you're not going to have to pay him a ton when compared to other coaches. And you're paying him a lot as the defensive coordinator. You could really take that money and go get an offensive guy. As a really high level OC out there, a guy that can call plays and develop quarterbacks and knows what he's looking at now when evaluating talent at quarterback. I just think that's very unlikely. And I don't think you can sit here and say, all right, well, even if he struggles, at least we'll retain some of the roster. And the roster's a lot better. But in today's age of college football where players come and go, I would rather, in the long term, go make the right hire and have players leave than just make a fast, irrational hire to keep a couple guys around. And there's no guarantee they'd stick around.
Yeah, that's the thing. People are freaking out because I think 24/7 put out a report. Cam Coleman could be on the move, and Auburn fans are like, you don't know that? It's like, dude, this is what happens when you fire your coach. You're gonna lose players. Regardless.
Yeah, but like let's be honest too. Like at the end of the day, like how many? I'm watching what Signetti's doing at Indiana, and he's got some good players, but he's not running around with the Avengers up there.
Right.
Like this group hasn't won a lot of games. Like they just haven't. And obviously the buck stops with Hugh Freeze. He's gone now. But what blows my mind is, yes, we all know the roster's better. I'm more worried about the defensive side and the young guys on the defensive side. I've watched these guys on offense, and Cam Coleman is uber talented. I'd love to keep him at Auburn. But to be honest with you, there's a lot more wide receivers running around that could do things, as opposed to some of the guys on defense that are younger for Auburn that are doing what they're doing right now. And I'm a defensive guy by nature, but it's just the truth.
That's a great point. Real quick, Jake, not asking who you think they would hire, but if they called you and said, Jake, you can make the hire right now, who would it be? Who would you hire for Auburn? And we'll do the other schools as well.
Nick Saban. No. I would if he would say yes. He'd have to be honest with you, if I was the AD, he'd have to give us a cease and desist order. We'd be calling him so much. To me, and we're saying, obviously, Lane's off the board, right? We're talking about ones that...
Yeah, let's just take him off the board, yeah.
To me, my gut says it would be Summerall first, Clark Lee 1B, which it's kind of crazy to say that considering one guy's had success in the SEC at Vandy. There's something about Summerall, just the way he goes about things that I think fits. And I do know that Dillingham is listening, which I didn't think was going to be the modus operandi. Now, is that listening to leverage more money at your place? Probably. And kudos to him to do that. That's one of the victor to the victor go the spoils. But I would say Summerall 1A, Clark Lee 1B. I don't think James Franklin would work. You look at some of the other candidates out there. Jeff Brom, would I be upset if Auburn hired him? No, but I just don't think it's realistic. Brent Key's a guy that I think, I would push for, but I would say Summerall 1A, Clark Lee 1B.
You could put anybody at LSU. Who are you putting?
Lane. God, it just makes sense, doesn't it? If you ever, and this, Gordy, you ever met a Cajun in your life? You want to talk about somebody that loves to listen to the leader of their program talk trash? It's LSU fans. It'd work at Florida too, but it's a perfect. I mean, can you just imagine? Like, I feel like Lane Kiffin and LSU fans would create like an infinity stone.
Oh yeah, and he'd probably bring Ogeron back as his D-line coach. I mean,
I don't know if we're ready for that. I don't know if society. Well, look, that 3-eye Atlas thing's coming anyway. Let's just see what happens.
You go, come on, Lane. We're going to recruit. I mean, it'd be incredible.
D lineman. Lane's like recruit.
Right. Well, that's
I got a movie reservation at 7, and it's the seats that move.
Somebody said Lane. They're like, Lane doesn't recruit. I'm like, at LSU he would. Like he'd fall out of bed and have a top 10 recruiting class.
Yeah, that's again why LSU is would be so attractive if I'm Lane Kiffin. It's like I just walked through with the logo on my shirt and you committed. It's amazing.
Okay, so if Lane's at LSU, who would you put at Florida?
See, this is the interesting one to me. I tell you, if Lane wasn't at Florida and you look at who's out there, I think Drinkowitz makes sense. I think Drinkowitz makes a lot of sense. Kind of in the same vein as LSU, it seems like Florida only really wins when they have somebody that'll talk trash and is like just a troll. I mean, Spurrier, Urban Meyer, it fits at Florida too. I would say Drinkowitz. You know what would be interesting to me when you look at Florida and a guy that I know, they lost their starting quarterback this year and it hasn't gone great. I think Fran Brown would kill it at Florida. I think they'd recruit so well, you would just have to make sure nobody poisons the pregame meal.
Right.
Like at some point, like it's what I always tell people, like, look, scheme matters. Obviously, you want coaches that know what they're doing. They know structurally what they're doing. They know what they're calling. But I have seen firsthand really average scheme look amazing because of the players, and really amazing scheme look average because of the players. And I just think Fran Brown at Florida would kill it. But they probably won't hire him, but I think he'd kill it.
I met him at the Lombardi Awards earlier this year, or no, the Bear Bryant Awards, and I loved him. I was like, this guy's a winner.
Dude,
like,
he's a lightning rod too, man. Like guys want to play for that dude. Like and they play. Like he's getting, and again, I know it hadn't been beautiful. Before Angeli got hurt, Syracuse was like leading the world offensively in some categories. Just something about that dude I like, man.
All right, last one real quick. Who would you put at Arkansas?
See, this is where I think like the James Franklin one's interesting to me. Because like if you're Arkansas, I know you want Gruden and some of these other guys, but let's just say you have to, and I'm not trying to disrespect Arkansas here, which means I'm about to disrespect them whenever anybody prefaces that. You feel like at Arkansas is going to get a hand-me-down, right? Not like a nice new shiny toy. But if you're going to get a hand-me-down, is James Franklin not the greatest hand-me-down of all time?
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to like inherit your older brother's clothes, but it's another to like inherit his F-250 that's souped up. Like I feel like James Franklin, a pissed off James Franklin at Arkansas would work. Now that Rhett's out of the picture, it's either that or you go, I don't know if after what they've gone through in the past, but you look at Eric Morris at North Texas. If you're going to go young that way, that's a guy I'd go look at. If you're Arkansas, I wouldn't expect the world, but God, James Franklin, if he doesn't end up at Virginia Tech, it makes a lot of sense at Arkansas to me.
Hey, more with Jake Crain in just a second, but when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Of course, their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. And you can join the free Trade Master program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com, sign up for free, and use our promo code SHCollege5. That's going to get you 5% off your first order. If you need supplies for a job at home, it is supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. We continue our conversation with Jake Crain, Crain and Company. Of course, you could find him on YouTube and, of course, on social media, and does a great job there talking all things college sports weekly. Let's get into a couple games real quick this weekend, Jake. LSU, Alabama. I mean, preseason, this would have been billed as a top 10 matchup possibly, but Alabama's on a roll. LSU, we kind of don't know what we're going to get with, interim coach and Frank Wilson, but I got to think whatever. Like I said, somebody said this to me earlier this week, the handcuffs are off. So all those coordinators and assistants at LSU that are coaching for their lives, they're going to do a little something different, I got to think.
Well, you're right that it's harder to prepare because, especially when you have a play caller. See, that's the thing, whether it's LSU, whether it's Auburn, any of these places where you have a new play caller, not that they're going to run some totally different offense. You don't have time to do that. But their tendencies as a play caller are different. So you will get some new things, some individual plays that they put in, or maybe they'll run more of some stuff that they like the other guy didn't call. But it's the tendency and how they call it when they call it. That's really the biggest difference that you're preparing for. And listen, I know it's fun to sit here and say, look, they're playing free. They're playing free. There's no expectations. And you're right. You're right. But the problem for LSU is, when you fire your head coach, you don't get a brand new offensive line. That's the problem for LSU. If I'm them, I'm probably throwing it 45 times this game. I think it's their only chance. Now, defensively, you can stunt Alabama's run. Alabama hasn't been great on the ground. It's just, can you survive against Ty Simpson on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9? Because nobody's been able to. That's where Alabama's really been at their best on those crucial, money downs, as we call them. So, yeah, they'll play free. But, again, you don't have new offensive linemen coming in there. And it's been so bad for LSU, I think, for the past 2 years. I know the tackles were pretty good last year, but inside they were just a snack for everybody else. I'm not seeing it. Alabama's got a ton of momentum, and we know these teams hate each other. Like LSU, regardless of what's happened, they're not going to – Alabama's not going to let them sneak up on them. I think – if LSU does a punch early, they'll be able to hang in it for a little bit. But with that offensive line, I'm just not seeing it. I've got Bama. I think I said on the show today, we did our predictions 34-17, something like that.
Yeah, and for Ty Simpson, continue to build that Heisman resume. I got him right up there at the top. He's played phenomenal so far. So. How about A&M at Mizzou? Man, I keep looking at it. If this were Bo Perbula at quarterback, I've had a few people say I would take Mizzou. But Matt Zollers, look, he's a top 100 recruit. He can fling it. I just don't know. Like, they're at home.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. A&M's really good.
Well, he's also like 12, so there's that. And look, he throws the ball better than Perbula, but I think Perbula's running ability, mixed in with his capable throwing ability, what is a bigger threat overall. And you throw in the experience. Obviously, that's a big factor. What's funny is that I keep seeing people saying, well, with A&M, we're just, again, waiting on them to lose a game that they shouldn't. Like this, is some, titanic matchup versus poor little Missouri. I mean, Missouri can do some things, especially in the ground game, and defensively, they've been pretty solid. They're hell off the edge. But, I mean, we're in week 11. Like, this is who A&M is. They're really good, and they're winning in multiple ways. And Marcel Reed is starting to figure out how to complement the pass game with his feet. It's really there was a lot of, and I'm not saying he is this guy, but he looked a lot like Jaden Daniels against LSU. A lot like Jaden Daniels against LSU. And the more he figures it out, this defense is going to continue to do little things right. I think A&M wins a close one. I think, and to be honest with you, at the end of the day, I know they got Florida at home, and then I think it's like Samford, and then they play Texas. They win this one, they're in the college football playoff, at worst at 10-2, and really continue to put themselves in the driver's seat to play in the SEC championship game. So just the mixture of the new quarterback with A&M's chameleon-like ability to be able to win these games that they hadn't been able to in the past. I like A&M here.
All right, we got time for one more. You want Georgia, Mississippi State, or Auburn, Vandy?
Let's go Auburn, Vandy. Not that Mississippi State can't beat Georgia. That one smells funny. But I'm gonna tell you why Auburn is gonna beat Vanderbilt. Okay, and nobody has shown more love and given more flowers to Clark Lee and Diego Pavia than this guy right here. But when you look at this matchup, and you look at Derek Nix, who hasn't called the plays, I just brought that up. Not that Auburn is some titan on offense. They aren't. I just have a feeling with Ashton Daniels, who's starting at quarterback, they are going to be taking mega shots down the field in this game. I've got some pretty good, let's say, foresight that it is going to be bombs over Baghdad to Cam Coleman and the guys on the outside, which means that eventually Vandy is going to figure that out, which, if it is working, means Vandy's going to have to start playing too high. And I think that can work to Auburn's favor in the run game. But where I'm most intrigued is that this Vanderbilt offense, which is like an anaconda, they just squeeze you out over time. They've been really effective outside of us seeing Diego Pavia turn the ball over more in big moments in their losses this season. I think Auburn is actually going to sneak up on Vanderbilt a little bit this game. I think Auburn comes out, gets on top early. Vandy's going to fight back, maybe even take the lead. But I just have a weird suspicion that Auburn finds a way. And then all of a sudden, that DJ Durkin hype train is going to start 1,000 miles an hour after this happens. I'm going to tell you, I think Auburn wins. Give me 27-24.
Wow. That would be a shocker. And you're right. Like, I could see Keldrick Falk, whoever, hitting Pavia. When they've hit Pavia, that's when he's had those fumbles and made the mistakes.
Well, you're coming off the game against Texas, emotional, it's physical. We looked at the slate Vandy's been going through. Diego Pavia is just owned all. He's basically been the mayor of Auburn in the state of Alabama, honestly. I know he lost to Alabama this year. But, dude, just call it a gut feeling. Something smells funny in this one. It just smells funny. And
it would be a funny storyline that the minute they fire Hugh, they finally beat.
No, like, watch what happens if the offense scores 45. Then, to me, I literally said on our show today, if it was me and I was the one doing the contract, I would say that if you get fired and you're an offensive guy, right, and you're calling the plays, if you get fired and the next game we score more points in that game than we averaged up to the point that season of you getting fired, you should not get half your buyout.
I love that. I'd be all for it. The Louisiana governor would be all for that. He'd say,
yeah, we could call it the Louisiana Purchase. Call whatever the hell you want. Doesn't matter to me.
He is Jake Crain, of course, Crain & Company. Check him out each and every week right there on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Jake, always appreciate the time, man. Thanks.
Hey, Gordy, appreciate it, buddy.
All right, thanks to Jake Crain. I want to remind you guys, the NBA is back. No better place if you want to get in on the action than with FanDuel. They are the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Of course, they got all of the other sports up there as well, college, pro football, all of it. And you can get in on the action, combine your live bets into a same-game parlay, get a shot at a bigger payout. I've been telling you each and every week about some of these live dogs in the SEC, like the home underdogs. You could parlay some of those. Last week, if you would have parlayed, Mississippi State, Kentucky, you would have got a pretty darn good payout with those upsets, and you can do them all at FanDuel. Look, it keeps the games more exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com, get signed up, play your game with FanDuel. They are the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And Our thanks to Jake Crain. We're going to get you caught up with some of the latest news going on around the conference. So let's dive into that. Over at Auburn, DJ Durkin, interim head coach, has named his starting quarterback for the game against Vanderbilt this Saturday. Ashton Daniels will make his second straight start as Auburn faces number 16 Vanderbilt on the road. During his SEC coaches teleconference on Wednesday, Durkin announced they will stick with Daniels. He said, "We made the decision that Ashton will be our starting quarterback. I think he gives us the best opportunity to win the game. He's done a good job preparing this week, so he'll be the guy we will go with, and we have a good plan for him." Neither Daniels or Jackson Arnold looked very good in their action last week in the loss to Kentucky, but we will see what he looks like this week. As Jake Crain said, let it fly. Let it fly. How about over at Tennessee? Josh Heupel giving an update on his injured cornerback, Jermod McCoy. According to Adam Sparks, Knoxville News, Josh Heupel was asked whether or not he thinks McCoy will see the field this season. He said, "I don't think it's fair for me to put a timeline on it. He had a real injury that he's been working hard to get back from. He continues to make progress. Great teammate in the way that he's tried to get himself back." Tore his ACL back in January during the offseason training program, and there was hope we were going to see him this season at some point. But, man, as each week goes by, you start to say, I don't know, maybe it becomes less and less likely we'll see Jermod McCoy out there. But they certainly could have used him. Look, that Tennessee defense has had some problems in that secondary throughout this season. How about over at LSU? Linebacker Whit Weeks, they got a big one going to Alabama, Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday night. Well, it sounds like they will not be getting him back. There was hope that maybe that he would be back by this point, but Frank Wilson, interim head coach, saying it is more doubtful. Weeks has been dealing with a lingering ankle injury. He's missed the last 2 games against Vanderbilt and A&M, both losses for LSU. And so, look, he was a preseason first-team All-American. You can't say that they are not missing him on that defense. But the good news for Bama is it sounds like they will be missing him again this week. How about over at South Carolina? Shane Beamer making it known who will be calling plays for the rest of the year. According to Chris Lowe, Gamecocks have reportedly given wide receiver coach Mike Furry offensive play calling responsibilities for the rest of the year. There was some kind of speculation on who it was going to be. He's a former NFL player, head coach at Limestone College. He's in his second season with the program, serving as the wide receivers coach. He's got over a decade of collegiate and NFL coaching experience. We'll see what he can do to get the most out of Lenore Sellers down the stretch. Over at Missouri, Eli Drinkwitz evaluating the Texas A&M Aggies coming to town. He said, quote, "That team last year whipped our butt. They came out hungry, and they took it to us. Are they better? Yeah." So Drink saying the Aggies even better this year, and obviously record-wise they are. They enter this game undefeated, coming off a bye week, beating LSU 49-25 just 2 weeks ago. And Marcel Reed has gotten better and better. The Tigers are going to be rolling with starting freshman Matt Zollers at quarterback after the injury to Bo Pribula, so they will be a home underdog, but we'll see what Zollers and company can do. Ride Ahmad Hardy if you're going to have any chance in this one. And lastly, over at Texas, pretty interesting, Joel Klatt talking about Texas and their spot in the playoff rankings that just came out. He said the biggest takeaway from these rankings is Texas at number 11. That tells us a lot about how the committee is valuing not only Texas, but the SEC. But them at 11, I think, is going to draw some people's ire. I don't disagree with it. He said there's a strong push behind closed doors to make sure the committee values teams that schedule difficult non-conference games like Texas did against Ohio State in week 1. He said, if we're just going to penalize a team like Texas for playing and losing to Ohio State, then we're going to lose that game on the schedule. And we don't want that in college football. And guess what? Texas has so much ammunition left on their schedule. They're still in a good position, whether they win out or not. The Longhorns at 9-3 are absolutely alive. And this is a great topic that I kind of started thinking about. Like, yes, we're going to say Texas is dinged because they have a loss. They lost week 1 at Ohio State. But remember, we got to keep talking about giving them credit for scheduling that, because they could have scheduled, I don't know, some Texas directional school and, you know, beat them easily, and they'd be whatever. You know, they'd have one loss right now on the season. Granted, it's not a great loss, losing at Florida, but I was thinking about this with a road trip to Georgia next week and then hosting A&M the last week of the season. If Texas goes 1-1 in those games and finishes 9-3, depending on what happens around them in the Big Ten and other schools, I think Texas would have a case because of that close loss to Ohio State in week 1. If indeed Ohio State's undefeated and they're sitting still number one in the country. So it just brings up an interesting debate. I'm with him. I'm with Klatt, and I'm with the committee if that's their thought. How are you going to ding this team for losing that game when they could have just easily not scheduled? Then let's not do it anymore. We're not going to get those awesome week one matchups, because why do it when Ole Miss is playing the Citadel this week and teams are doing that? It's like, that's who Texas could have scheduled. And then again, you're saying, oh, well, 12-2 is or 10-2 is better than 9-3. Yeah, but what about 9-3 with a quality, awesome loss that was really close? Again, that would mean they have on their resume a win over a top 10 Vanderbilt team that they beat last week, and then beating either a top 10 Georgia team or a top 10 A&M team in one of those. Granted, the loss to one of those would have to be close. Let's say they lose by a field goal at Georgia this week, but then beat A&M the last week of the season. Just saying, it would make a case for Texas to get into the playoff. Of course, probably, would definitely be out of the SEC championship race, obviously, with another loss. But hey, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Reminder to check us out daily on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. For our listeners who live in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, catch us weekdays at 11:30 a.m. Central on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, home of the New Orleans Pelicans and home for Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Come on back and see us tomorrow. Very special guest joining us on Locked On SEC on Friday.